Welcome to the Strength for the Day podcast, which is a daily Bible study with Dennis Fountain. We hope this time together will be challenging, sharpening, uplifting, encouraging, and strengthening to your Christian walk. Thank you for joining us, and we pray you are helped through today's study.
Hey, good morning, and welcome back to another episode of Strength for the Day. And I hope that you are doing well. And I'll be honest, I've had a little bit of a rough week, just some frustrating things. And seems like yesterday was just one of those days where you just turn the corner and something else happens. But that's okay. It happens in life, so you just keep rolling with what comes and you keep adjusting. And so anyway, if you are from our church, I hope you would go check our social media out. There's been some changes for Church at the Lake this week, and so make sure that you know the changes about that, the location change and all of that. And I'll announce more about that in the next couple of episodes as Church at the Lake gets closer. And then if you're from our church, make sure you know about the change. For those of you and all of us, we are part of our series right now called The Church Unleashed. We're going through a study in the book of Acts, the actions of the early church. And today we come to Acts chapter number 23 and verse number 12. And if you'll remember with me, in Acts 23, Paul has just been arrested. And of course, he's being falsely accused. And we saw in our previous episode him in probably a place of discouragement. And yet the Lord said to him, be of good cheer. And God used his word to encourage Paul and to bring him that principle, that truth that he was going to safely be delivered to Rome. And that story continues in our passage in Acts 23 and verse 12. So let's read the story and then get a couple of applications and we'll be done today. Acts chapter 23 verse 12, and when it was day, some of the Jews banded together and bound themselves under an oath, saying that they would neither eat nor drink until they had killed Paul. So a lot of these enemies, these Jewish enemies, made this pact, if you will, that they're going to team up and they're going to not eat, not drink anything until they get Paul dead, until they kill Paul. All right, so that's the bound. That's the bond between them, the oath between them. It says in verse 13, now there were more than 40 who had formed this conspiracy. They came to the chief priests and elders and said, we have bound ourselves under a great oath that we will eat nothing until we have killed Paul. Now you, therefore, together with the council, suggest to the commander that he be brought down to you tomorrow, as though you were going to make further inquiries concerning him. But we are ready to kill him before he comes near. So now they're conspiring with the religious leaders. Hey, you guys make this secret meeting and get Paul to come in, and on the way, we'll attack him and we'll kill him. Take care of your problem, take care of our problem. Let's work together. Verse number 16. So when Paul's sister's son heard of their ambush, so now Paul's nephew is there and he hears about this. It says that he went and entered the barracks and told Paul. He goes into the jails and he tells Paul. Then Paul called one of the centurions to him and said, take this young man to the commander, for he has something to tell him. So he took him and brought him to the commander and said, Paul the prisoner called me to him and asked me to bring this young man to you. He has something to say to you. Then the commander took him by the hand, went aside and asked privately, what is it that you have to tell me? And he said, the Jews have agreed to ask you to bring Paul down to the council tomorrow, as though they were going to inquire more fully about him, but do not yield to them. For more than 40 of them lie in wait for him, men who have bound themselves by an oath that they will neither eat nor drink until they have killed him. And now they are ready, waiting for the promise from you. So now this conspiracy is made known to the Roman commander. So the commander let the young man depart and commanded him, tell no one that you have revealed these things to me. I want you to remember that, all right? For those of us that are listening and watching today, just remember that verse. Tell no one that you have revealed these things to me. Verse 23. And he called for 2 centurions, saying, Prepare 200 soldiers, 70 horsemen, and 200 spearmen to go to Caesarea at the 3rd hour of the night, and provide mounts to set Paul on, and bring him safely to Felix the governor. So the commander comes up with his own conspiracy, his own idea, and he's going to secretly get Paul out of Jerusalem that night. So he writes a letter to Felix to the commander, and he says this: Claudius Lysias, to the most excellent Felix, greetings. This man, Paul, was seized by Jews and was about to be killed by them. Coming with the troops, I rescued him, having learned that he was a Roman. And when I wanted to know the reason they accused him, I brought him before their council. I found out that he was accused concerning questions of their law, but had nothing charged against him deserving of death or chains. And when it was told me that the Jews lay in wait for the man, I sent him immediately to you, and also commanded his accusers to state before you the charges against him. Farewell. So Claudius Lysias, now we know that is the commander. He writes a letter to Felix and he says, hey, look at this great accomplishment I made. I just love what he writes. He's like, this guy, he was in some trouble and I noticed that he needed help. So I arrested him and I brought him in. I found out he was a Roman. And so now I'm going to send him to you because I think he's innocent. And man, that's not really how it went. But anyway, Claudius Lysias, God uses him to write to Felix. Paul would get transferred to Felix, and it says in verse number 31, Then the soldiers, as they were commanded, took Paul and brought him by the night to Antipatris. And the next day they left the horsemen to go on with him and returned to the barracks. And when they came to Caesarea and had delivered the letter to the governor, to Felix, they also presented Paul to him. And when the governor had read it, he asked what province he was from. And when he understood that he was from Cilicia, he said, I will hear you when your accusers have come. And he commanded him to be kept in Herod's praetorium. That praetorium is just headquarters. So this is just a very interesting story. It's still Paul. He's still arrested. He's still under custody. But there's this plot against him. There's this plot to kill Paul. And the plot is discovered by Paul's nephew, who then in turn takes it to Claudius Lysias, who then in turn delivers it to Felix. And now Paul is secure there in Caesarea with Felix awaiting now trial before Felix, who would be the governor of the area. So here's what I find great. I find great that in verse 12, there's a group of 40 men, religious men, that are like, hey, let's make a pact that we will not eat or drink anything until Paul is dead. I wonder if they actually kept that, because if they did, it would be a long while. It would have to be a few years because Paul would not be killed. He wouldn't be persecuted, or he wouldn't be martyred for a number of years and after this, and until after a number of years after this event. I don't know. That doesn't sound right. He wouldn't face death until years later. Let's go with that. Anyway, Paul, he's not going to face that death. And so these men make that pact. But here's what I found interesting. In verse 22, I told you to remember that verse. The commander, Claudius Lysias, says to the nephew, hey, don't tell anybody that I told you this. There was all this secretive stuff going on. So the Jews were trying to be secretive. Claudius Lysias was trying to be secretive, and the nephew and all of that. And of course, the nephew was trying to do it because he didn't want the enemy, the Jewish leaders to find out, religious leaders to find out, and Claudius was doing it because he didn't want them to find out. But there's all this, whispering and this collusion taking place in these religious leaders of not eating. But you know who saw everything? God did. God saw it all. And in verse number 11, God had just told Paul, hey, be of good cheer, be encouraged. I've got this. The reason I bring that out is because sometimes in my life, and I'm speaking to myself today, after my day yesterday, I need this. Sometimes in our life, we feel as though God doesn't see the circumstances that we're facing or the situation that we're in, and we almost face it like it's a surprise to him, but it's not. We serve a God who sees, and God knew that these men were going to conspire against Paul. That's why he allowed Paul's nephew to overhear them, and then Claudius Lysias to send Paul to Felix, and then Felix would send Paul on, and there's going to be a lot that takes place before King Agrippa and a lot of things that happen. And then Paul eventually will be in Rome in Acts 28. God allowed all of that. And man thought, well, we're conniving, we're secretive in this. But God's like, no, I see it. And the reason that encourages me is in a few ways. Number one, it encourages me that God already knows the challenges I'm going to face today. He's already in today. I love the old song, He's already in your tomorrow. So keep pressing on. The idea is don't worry, don't get frustrated, don't get irritated. God's already in it. He already sees it. So if He already sees it, He already has the wisdom to help me through it. And so I want to encourage you today, when you look at the frustrating situations of life, let's remember that we serve a God who sees. God saw through their secretive, conniving, trying to kill Paul, and God rescued him. And in your life, I don't know what situations you're facing that you think you're facing alone, but can I tell you, God sees it, and in a very similar way, God will see you through it. He will help you in this time. He will encourage your heart in this time. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. This wasn't easy for Paul. He was in a jail cell. And yet the God who sees was able to encourage Paul's heart and challenge him to just keep moving forward with faith. Paul wrote about this time and time again in the prison epistles. And so I really just want to encourage you in my heart today that we serve a God who sees. And so today, take heart. Your God sees your situation. He knows what's going on, and He will never abandon you. Hope that'd be a help to you. We'll pick up tomorrow in Acts chapter 24. Look forward to seeing you then. Have an awesome day.